The grand chamber of the interstellar Concordat was carved into the core of Zalar, a planet so ancient, its tectonic plates no longer moved. Above the floating dais of representatives, a domed ceiling shimmered with artificial starlight, simulating a sky none of the delegates had ever seen together. At the center stood the Galactic Council's seat of judgment, elevated, glowing, and coldly impartial. Captain Ilara Miles didn't blink as the floor vibrated with High Chancellor Karoth Vex's voice. His tone was surgically calm, yet the underlying disdain pulsed like venom through his words. "Representative Miles," he said, his glossy black eyes narrowing, "you've failed to submit your orbital registry for the third cycle in a row. By law, all member species must disclose military asset movements. You haven't." A murmur rippled through the chamber. Representatives from the KRY Dominion, Zok Collective, and even the more neutral Tekri delegates leaned forward. Ilara stood, her Terran uniform sharp and unadorned, gray, efficient, human. "We have no military assets beyond our solar system. Earth's fleet movements are defensive and local. Nothing we do violates Concordat law." "Then why hide them?" Karoth pressed. "Our long-range scans detect energy surges inconsistent with civilian technology." A deliberate pause. Ilara's gaze swept the room. "Because we've learned," she said, voice low but firm, "that trust is not given, it's weaponized. Every Terran advancement reported to this body has been dissected, duplicated, or suppressed. You'll forgive us if we choose silence over sabotage." The chamber bristled. Vex straightened. "Your presence here is conditional. Earth is young, unsteady. The Concordat offers structure, guidance. But your defiance. Self-reliance," Ilara corrected. Karoth raised a hand. "We will proceed to vote on sanctions. Monitoring satellites. Trade suspensions. Orbital inspections by neutral fleets. If Earth has nothing to hide, you'll object to none of it." A holographic sphere appeared between them, its surface flickering with 9 council glyphs. One by one, the glyphs turned red, votes in favor. Ilara didn't move. She didn't flinch when Earth's symbol remained the only one glowing blue. Vex nodded. "So decided. Sanctions take effect immediately." But Ilara had already turned away. As she left the chamber, her expression never changed. Not when a Tekri delegate gave her a sympathetic nod. Not when a Zok guard looked her up and down with something between curiosity and caution. And not when she crossed the threshold into the quiet antechamber where Terran signals couldn't be intercepted. She tapped the comm patch beneath her collarbone. "Black Zone Command, Authorization Miles Alpha 77. A synthetic voice responded instantly. "Confirming. Shadow Protocol?" Ilara's tone was cold steel. "Confirmed. Execute." 12 million kilometers from Earth, hidden within the radiation belt of Saturn, Black Zone Command stirred. A veil of sensor-jamming satellites blinked in perfect synchronicity, peeling back a layer of invisibility. Beneath it, Earth's true military complex glowed, a fortress wrapped around an asteroid, bristling with stealth-hull dreadnoughts, railgun stations, and AI-controlled drone swarms. Admiral Juno, commander of Shadow Fleet, studied the encrypted message flashing on her console. "Shadow Protocol, initiated." She exhaled slowly. "So it begins." Back in Zalar's diplomatic wing, Ilara stepped into her quarters and sealed the door with 3 manual overrides. Not even the Council's surveillance net could break that encryption. She sat, but didn't rest. Her mind mapped out timelines, enemy fleet positioning, Earth's delay windows, probable Council leak sources. A soft chime. Her wristband pulsed. Message encoded. Sender unknown. She read the decrypted text twice. Zyran fleet moved 9 hours before vote. Destination Earth. Estimated arrival, 72 hours. S. Ilara froze. They'd made their move before the vote. Her eyes hardened. This wasn't a sanction. It was a cover for war. She transmitted a one-word reply. Received. 3 hours later, a closed-door meeting of the Zyran military command played out on a concealed channel. Karoth Vex stood alone, watching the holographic overlay of Earth's solar system. "No resistance," said General Tharl, his voice gravelly. "Their outer colonies are unarmed. By the time they detect us, their skies will belong to us." Vex clasped his hands. "Good. Burn their illusions. Humanity thinks secrecy is strength. But power is only real when others fear to oppose it." He turned to the image of Earth, floating pale and vulnerable in the black. "And they will fear us soon enough." Elara stood aboard a diplomatic shuttle heading for the jump gate at the edge of Zaylar's orbit. From the observation deck, the galactic core was a smear of molten stars. Somewhere beyond that, Earth waited, still unaware. Her aide, Lieutenant Carr, approached. "Captain? If they're coming, what's the plan?" She answered without looking. "They're expecting compliance. What they'll get." She finally turned, her eyes colder than vacuum. "Is our answer." Carr hesitated. "And if they outgun us?" "They won't," she said. He stared at her, uncertain. "Elara, how can you be sure?" "Because Earth didn't survive a century of watching, listening, and adapting just to kneel now." She paused. "They think we're late to the stars. But we've been preparing this entire time." She tapped her wrist, cueing the next transmission. "To them, we're unpredictable," she said. "To us, that's strategy." As the stars twisted around the shuttle and it vanished into jump space, the first wave of Zyran dreadnoughts crossed the event threshold into Sol's outer perimeter, unaware of the gauntlet awaiting them. And for the first time in generations, the galaxy would learn what happened when Earth stopped playing nice. The darkness surrounding Saturn had always been a useful lie. Thick radiation belts, unstable magnetic fields, and the chaos of its moons offered the perfect camouflage. That's why Earth had built its true defense behind the storm, buried where no Concordat scanner dared to look too closely. Inside the black zone, the atmosphere was razor-tight. Admiral Juno stood on the central platform of Command Core Alpha, surrounded by a circular array of holographic displays. Each showed incoming signals, fleet trajectories, satellite feeds, and pulse scans of the outer system. Across the room, engineers barked orders. Specialists confirmed alignment of stealth platforms. There was no panic, only motion. Juno's expression didn't waver. She was carved from war and patience. "Status report," she ordered. Commander Asher, her second, leaned in. "Orbital cloaks holding. Shadow Fleet is at 74% readiness. All AI battlegroups online. Slipnet nodes active and synchronized. And the satellite intercepts?" Asher nodded. "Confirmed. Zyran Dreadnought formation entered Sol's fringe field 2 hours ago. Formation spread suggests invasion, not inspection." Juno exhaled through her nose. "So the Council sold us out for peace of mind." He didn't answer. She turned back to the main display. Red pings bloomed on the edge of the system. They were coming faster than expected. 17 Zyran warships, 2 supercarriers, and a vessel tagged as Void class, a type previously seen only in simulations. "They committed a Void class?" she muttered. "That's not oversight. That's extermination." Elara's stealth cruiser exited jump space just inside Neptune's orbit. Her eyes immediately shifted to the rear panel, where the ship's AI overlaid real-time data. Signals from Black Zone Command reached her in encrypted bursts. No civilian net. No Concordat protocols. Pure Terran channels. "Shadow Fleet confirms engagement timeline," the ship's AI announced. "Estimated contact window, 36 hours. Awaiting your orders, Captain." Elara didn't answer right away. Her mind was racing through decades of hidden strategies, simulations, fallback plans. Humanity had spent over a century watching other empires clash, absorbing, adapting, perfecting. They'd never wanted war. But they weren't strangers to it. "Engage disruption phase Alpha," she said finally. "Break protocol locks. Let them see us, but only what we want." "Confirmed," replied the AI. Cloaking distortions shifting. Across the system, a silent wave unfurled, Earth's vast camouflage network partially deactivated. Not all of it. Just enough to whisper something unsettling into the Zyron's long-range sensors. A shadow. A hint of mass. Something bigger than expected. In the lead Zyron vessel, Chancellor Vex's personal flagship, tactical officers adjusted their readings with growing unease. Strange readings near Saturn's orbit, one officer said, antennae twitching. There are fluctuations. Energy fields. Some appear to mimic asteroid behavior, but the signatures are too symmetrical. Vex's head turned slightly. Do we have confirmation of Earth's defenses? Only planetary-level scans, the officer replied. Their orbital presence is minimal. But the outer system is anomalous. Vex narrowed his eyes. Keep formation. Increase sensor sweeps. They may bluff, but humans are still primitive compared to our kind. His words sounded confident. But behind his gaze, a flicker of uncertainty bloomed. Back in the black zone, Admiral Juno was preparing for more than survival. This was a performance. Not just for the Zyrans, but for every Council species watching from the shadows, waiting to see if Earth would break. She walked along the upper deck as the weapon controllers coordinated swarm launch orders. Activate kinetic grid, she said. Full spread? Asher asked. No. Pulse pattern only. Let them think we're warming up. Make them guess how far we're willing to go. He nodded, tapping a control room. Deep below, in Saturn's shadow, thousands of near-invisible kinetic launchers swiveled silently, each one loaded with dense, high-velocity rods capable of piercing a cruiser's core. But they didn't fire. They hummed. Enough to distort gravity fields and light waves, just enough to spook any long-range sensors. Shadow broadcast is ready, Asher reported next. Send it, Juno ordered. On dozens of Council-linked data relays, encrypted transmissions broke protocol. Bantech, Earth-only encoding. What followed was a looping signal, a single image repeated on screen across systems. A Terran dreadnought hovering above Mars, flanked by 12 autonomous warships. Sleek. Black. Unmarked. Below the image, 6 words glowed in every known diplomatic language. Humanity does not request permission. The signal vanished after 10 seconds. But 10 seconds was enough. Back on Earth, deep inside the defense nexus in the Mojave Desert, General Amina Rao reviewed the signal's spread. Her staff buzzed with calls from confused planetary ambassadors and Council liaisons demanding answers. Let them stew, she said. Her aide looked up. Council Command wants to speak directly with Shadow Command. They'll speak to Captain Miles when she's ready, Rouse said sharply. Until then, silence is the sharpest blade. Inside her ship, Elara reviewed the incoming Council chatter. Panic. Anger. Denial. The old empires didn't like surprises. She opened a secure channel to Black Zone Command. Admiral Juno, she said. The Admiral's image appeared, arms folded behind her back. Captain? They'll come in fast. They think this will be a surgical operation. They won't expect swarm jump torpedoes, Juno replied. They'll expect resistance, Elara corrected. Not domination. The Admiral allowed a slight smile. That's what we've been saving for. Elara leaned forward. Initiate Phase 2. Full fleet awakening. If they fire first, we end it. The line closed. In the outer system, deep in the silent black between Uranus and Neptune, thousands of Terran stealth vessels powered up. Swarm torpedoes activated jump drives and micropulses. AI-guided ships turned in perfect unison, aligning into concentric defensive formations. And just beyond Saturn, a single Terran supercarrier emerged from full cloak, its hull lit with dark energy rails and fusion capacitors. It didn't speak. It existed. And that was enough. The first Siren scout ship picked up the signal just before its systems crashed. The data feed showed one frame, blurry, distorted, impossible to fake. An Earth warship the size of a moon. Silent. Waiting. When the scout didn't respond, Vex finally stood from his command seat. Contact the Council, he ordered. Demand answers. His aide hesitated. We said Earth was defenseless. They lied, Bex growled. And for the first time in his long, calculating life, he began to wonder if perhaps Earth had never been part of the game. Maybe they had built their own. The Sigma Draconis corridor was a cold stretch of vacuum, uncolonized and overlooked. For centuries, it had been little more than a gravitational bottleneck, an interstellar trade lane threading between gas giants and icy debris. But today, it would become the place history cracked. Captain Elara Miles stood on the bridge of the TNS Valiant, eyes locked on the tactical display. Dozens of Terran ships held silent positions around the system's natural debris ring. They weren't broadcasting. No lights, no movement, no signatures, just ghosts in orbit. The Zyran Armada will cross the threshold in 21 minutes, her AI confirmed. Their lead ships have not altered course. No signs they've detected our spread. Let them come, Elara said, steady. We only need one clean opening. On the far edge of Sigma Draconis, the Zyran fleet emerged from slip space in disciplined formation, 16 warships, 2 carriers, and a Void-class command dreadnought, its hull glowing with artificial gravity pulses. Inside the command bridge, Chancellor Vex paced beside his throne console. The tension was new, tight, unfamiliar. Earth's earlier display had disrupted his certainty, not his plan. Begin wide-range scans, he ordered. Full sweep. I want every anomaly flagged. The sensor officers complied, flooding the grid with pulses. Reflections came back, weak, scattered. One technician frowned. Sir? I'm getting distortions along the third orbit band. Low-level energy flickers. Not natural. Vex turned sharply. Show me. The hologram pulsed to life. Rings of icy debris glowed faintly, and hidden among them, static echoes. Shapes. Too symmetrical. Too still. His pupils narrowed. Ambush. Inside the Valiant, the countdown ticked into seconds. Zyrans just lit up the ring, reported Lieutenant Carr. Their scans will resolve in under 90 seconds. Too late, Elara replied. Execute Fire Plan Theta. What followed wasn't loud. Not at first. No flashes. No laser arcs. No dramatic energy blasts. Instead, hundreds of kinetic slugs launched in absolute silence. Invisible rods of dense tungsten, guided by AI microdrives, burst from camouflaged rail emplacements. They accelerated across the void with no propulsion signatures, no heat trails, just sheer velocity. The first Zyran destroyer didn't see death coming. One slug punched through its shield generator. Another severed its command spine. The ship split along its equator and bled plasma into the dark. A second Zyran cruiser lost both thrusters in the same breath. Emergency power activated. Too late. Then came the swarm jump torpedoes. A dozen Terran warheads jumped micro-distances, impossible to track, unpredictable in pattern. Each detonation didn't shatter, it ripped through phase space, collapsing inertial dampeners and crumpling Zyran hulls like foil. The ambush had begun. And it was surgical. Impact across forward units! Screamed a Zyran officer. We're losing destroyers 6 and 9. Shields collapsing, sector gamma, unknown projectile types. Jump signals detected in dash. The Void-class dreadnought shook under the kinetic wave. Its inertial controls struggled. Vex gripped the side rail. This wasn't a defense grid, he growled. This was a trap. A captain nearby asked. Orders, Chancellor? Vex's jaw clenched. He wasn't accustomed to improvising. Launch carriers. Return fire across full spread. Show them we are not prey. Back in the Valiant, Elara watched the Zyrans react, disjointed, slow, grasping. Hold our main fleet in cloak, she ordered. Let them think this is our full hand. They're deploying fighter clouds, Carr warned. Send in the counter-AIs. Give them something they've never seen. From the far side of the debris field, Terran autonomous strike units activated. Built without a cockpit, without heat, designed for nothing but kill ratios. They swarmed in quiet patterns, using predictive targeting, dancing between enemy fire. One Zyran carrier launched a full bay of interceptors, only for them to vanish under a curtain of AI-guided EMP bursts, slicing through with mechanical precision. Minutes passed. The void burned. Explosions bloomed silently. Hulls broke. Engines died. But Alara wasn't done. "Time to show them the Valiant's teeth," she said. She walked toward the command console and pulled a mechanical lever, the kind that required intent, not code. Above them, the ship's rail cannon extended. Unlike traditional Terran artillery, the Valiant's core weapon fired an accelerated alloy round encased in magnetic compression. It didn't explode. It disassembled matter. She locked onto the Void-class dreadnought. "Target acquired," the AI confirmed. "Fire." The round traveled at 60 kilometers per second. It passed through the outer hull of the Zyran flagship before the ship's internal defenses could register impact. It didn't detonate. Instead, it released a harmonic frequency, calibrated to disrupt layered shielding and short-circuit synthetic neural chains. The Void-class dreadnought staggered midspace. Its lights dimmed. Gravity flipped. Inside, Vex was thrown against the bulkhead. Sparks erupted across his throne console. "What did they hit us with?" he shouted. "No detonation, some kind of internal rupture. We've lost engine control." Outside, the dreadnought's rear broke open in a silent, graceful spiral. Alara didn't cheer. She watched. Measured. Then activated the final move. "Patch me into the Concordat diplomatic net," she said. "High priority override." The AI complied. She appeared across hundreds of council feeds, her face clear, steady, background filled with Terran bridge lights. "This is Captain Alara Miles of Earth's Shadow Fleet. We intercepted an unprovoked assault from the Zyran Empire within Sigma Draconis. In accordance with Article 7 of the Concordat Defense Charter, we have responded with proportional force." Her tone sharpened. "If the Concordat stands for order, now is the time to prove it. Neutral fleets will not be tolerated in Terran space. We have no interest in conquest. But make no mistake, Earth will never be subdued." She ended transmission. In the council chamber on Zaylar, the message played out in cold silence. Representatives watched as sensor feeds confirmed the devastation of a Zyran battle group. Military officers exchanged panicked glances. Kuroth Vex's seat was dark. The Tekri delegate finally spoke. "They won." The Zok representative leaned forward. "Not just won. Dominated." On board the limping Void class, Vex stared at the static on his command screen. His fleet was in ruins. His empire exposed. He looked out into the stars, eyes burning with something between fury and fear. "They were never primitive," he whispered. Above Sigma Draconis, the last Zyran cruiser fled through jump space. And Earth's silence, once mistaken for weakness, became the loudest sound in the galaxy. The grand chamber of the interstellar Concordat was not designed for fear. It was built for spectacle, lofty ideals projected on polished stone, a hall where judgment echoed louder than justice. But now, the echo was different. Quieter. More cautious. Counselors murmured as holographic feeds flickered in silence, looping the last known footage from Sigma Draconis, a crippled Zyran dreadnought spinning, broken, a Terran fleet emerging from cloak-like wraiths, the unmistakable muzzle flash of Earth's planetary-class weapons. Earth had made its move. Not with diplomacy, but force precise enough to leave no room for rebuttal. Then, without warning, the lights in the chamber dimmed. Every interface cut out. A moment of stillness. Then a pulse. Above the central dais, a wormhole shimmered into existence, contained, controlled, artificial. Not theoretical. Not alien. Human. From its glowing aperture descended a single ship, obsidian-hulled, bristling with silent weapon nodes, its hull marked only by a white symbol, Earth's rotating insignia surrounded by 8 stars. The council guards took defensive positions. Then Captain Alara Miles stepped out. She didn't wear a diplomatic robe or ceremonial badge. She wore her field uniform, still scuffed from the Sigma Draconis engagement. Her boots echoed as she walked across the stone, unhurried, unwavering. "Remove her!" the KRYL delegate barked. But no one moved. She walked to the center and stopped beneath the High Chancellor's throne, now empty, Vex notably absent. A soft hiss marked the activation of a second projection, Earth's AI Ambassador Eve, humanoid and translucent, standing beside Alara. Her voice, when it came, was flawless, measured and impossible to ignore. "Citizens of the Concordat. For 73 years, Earth honored the Charter. We contributed science, trade, and restraint. We watched you arm against us. We watched the Zyran Empire plot our containment under your blind eye. We said nothing. Until now." She paused. The silence was heavy. Alara stepped forward. "Earth did not come to conquer. But neither will we be governed by fear. You sanctioned us. You lied to us. You attacked us. And we responded. Efficiently." The Tekrianva, bold in uncertainty, stood. "You expect us to accept this display as justification?" Alara's eyes met his. "No. I expect you to understand what happens when you corner something that's been preparing for the strike longer than you've been alive." Eve lifted her arm. Outside the chamber, orbiting Zaylar, the stars dimmed. Then light returned, controlled light. Earth's hidden fleet decloaked above the capital world in a perfect crescent. Hundreds of warships, tight formations, hulls so black they seemed to absorb the galaxy. They didn't aim. They didn't broadcast threats. They simply arrived. The council chamber erupted in movement, some delegates standing, some backing away. The KRYL representative fumbled for a calm. Alara spoke before he could. "Don't. If any of you sends a fleet within 5 light-years of Sol, we will return." With fewer words. Councillor Varen of the Avanari stood, her wings twitching with unease. "What do you want?" "Balance," Alara answered. "Control?" Another delegate snapped. "No," she said. "Recognition." Back on Zaylar's orbital ring, in a fortified bunker built for war councils, Chancellor Vex watched the broadcast unfold with a clenched jaw. His military advisors argued around him, but their voices were background static now. "They brought an entire armada across council airspace," one shouted. "They built that fleet under your nose," another said bitterly. "You told us Earth was disorganized." Vex turned sharply. "Silence." The room fell quiet. "They've moved from secrecy to spectacle," he muttered. "They want the galaxy to think they've already won." A general leaned in. "Have they not?" Vex's hand twitched toward his belt, toward the hidden weapon holstered there. "I'll finish this myself." In the chamber, a signal override chimed. The room stilled. Kiroth Vex entered through the southern gate, flanked by 2 black armored guards. His robes were charred at the hem, but his posture was intact, still regal, still imposing. He walked past the other delegates without acknowledging them. Past Alara. Past Eve. He ascended the platform of the high chair and stopped. "I recognize no ultimatum," he said. "Earth has violated the ancient balance." Alara didn't move. "The balance is what you hide behind when truth doesn't suit you." Vex stepped down. Slowly. Calculated. "You seek power without accountability. That makes you no different than the tyrants you claim to oppose." Alara met him halfway, close enough to read the flicker in his eyes. "We didn't come here to seek power," she said quietly. "We came to show you we no longer need your permission." His hand moved, a flash of silver. A dagger, council-forged, ceremonial, illegal to carry within the chamber. But Alara was faster. Her elbow struck his wrist mid-draw. The weapon clattered across the floor. Eve moved between them in a shimmer of light, forming a hard light barrier before Vex could recover. The chamber erupted in alarm. Guards lunged. Delegates shouted. And the vote was sealed. Hours later, with Vex detained and his empire formally sanctioned by emergency session, the Concordat met behind closed doors. By unanimous vote, Earth was offered a permanent seat on the High Council. Alara declined. Not out of arrogance, but principle. She stood before them one final time. We don't want a throne. We want the truth to matter again. We want the rules enforced equally. Not selectively. Not when it's convenient. And not against those who refuse to kneel. She glanced around. No one interrupted. If this council has a future, it won't be built on fear. It will be built on balance. On accountability. On knowing that silence isn't weakness, it's calculation. Then she left the chamber, Eve by her side. Behind them, the ancient walls of power began to shift. On board the TNS Valiant, docked in Zaylar's outer ring, Admiral Juno watched the council feeds go dark one by one. Kar approached her. It's over? She shook her head. No, she said. It's just the part where they stop pretending Earth doesn't belong. And above them all, the Terran fleet held formation. Not attacking. Not retreating. Watching. Waiting. Letting the galaxy adjust to the sound of a new reality. The TNS Valiant hovered in low anchor above Zaylar's eastern hemisphere, surrounded by Earth's silent fleet. Below, the ancient city world crawled through its usual routines, but the tempo had shifted, more watchful, more careful. The old powers had felt the tremor, and now the galaxy waited to see if Earth would finish what it started. Captain Alara Miles stood in the observation gallery, alone. Outside, stars blinked faintly behind the curvature of the planet. Beneath them, the High Council chamber was reconvening under emergency orders, its first session in 2 centuries without a Zyran voice. The war was over, but Alara felt no victory. Just clarity. Final vote tally just came through, came Kar's voice from the entrance. Council ratified Article 9 amendments. Military autonomy laws passed. Vex has been stripped of his authority. Tikri and Avanari delegates co-sponsored the new Planetary Sovereignty Pact. Alara nodded without turning. An Earth's seat? Kar stepped closer. Offered again. Permanent. Unconditional. She turned now, studying him. And what did we say? Kar hesitated. You said to let them wait. A corner of her mouth twitched. Almost a smile. Almost. They need to understand something, she said quietly. This wasn't about chairs around a table. It was about the table itself. Across Zaylar, inside the newly restored council chamber, the mood was fragile. Kiroth Vex was gone, his arrest broadcast live across hundreds of systems. The Zyran Empire, though still dangerous, was fractured. Loyalist governors scrambled to distance themselves, and regional fleets had gone dark in protest or fear. Earth's message had reached them, directly. At the head of the room, Councillor Varen of the Avanari addressed the assembly. Let the record reflect, she began, that the Terran delegation has declined the offered high seat for the second time. Gasps echoed. Some outraged. Others uncertain. They instead submit a counter-proposal. A rotating leadership model. Shared oversight of council enforcement. Neutral fleet codes. Species-level autonomy for all non-aggressor systems. And full transparency of war votes. A Zok representative leaned forward. You're saying they want us to dismantle the very structure we've enforced for millennia? Varen raised her wings slightly. They're not asking. They're modeling it. With their fleet in orbit. Admiral Juno stood in Black Zone Command's Earth-based link hub, watching as dozens of regional leaders tuned into the transmission. Earth had changed, but not just by building weapons. It had mastered silence. Restraint. Strategy. And now, it had something rarer than fear, respect. General Rao's face appeared on the primary feed. Are we holding position? For now, Juno said. We don't want conquest. Just the understanding that next time they plan a blockade, someone's watching. Rao leaned back in her chair. And if another species tries this again? We'll be ready. Juno tapped a control. But the goal is never to strike first. She looked at the Earth emblem pulsing faintly in the center of the screen. That's not weakness. That's discipline. In the capital square of New Geneva, crowds had gathered around public screens. Children pointed at the star map as Earth's fleet remained locked above Zaylar. One boy looked up at his mother. Did we win? She smiled, crouching next to him. We made them listen. That's better. Nearby, veterans watched quietly, some in silence, others with a proud nod. It wasn't triumph they saw on screen. It was presence. Earth had stepped into the galaxy, not as a subordinate, but as a peer. Inside the Valiant, Alara made her way to the diplomatic corps. Carr followed, reading updates. Tekri proposing joint patrols. Avenari want a cultural exchange. Even the Zak are talking about a shared defense grid. Give them time, Alara said. Right now they're reacting. Later they'll decide if this new model is worth sustaining. Carr hesitated. And us? Alara tapped the glass wall, looking out at the fleet. We hold position. We make them remember we're still here. Not invading. Not withdrawing. Present. That's enough. Later that cycle, the Concordat issued a revised declaration. Earth was no longer a provisional member. They were now a sovereign autonomous ally, bound by law but free by choice. They held no permanent seat, but their influence was secured. Every vote, every sanction, every military deployment would now pass through a transparency protocol, something Alara herself had drafted. It wasn't dominance. It was reform. And for the first time, the Council passed it without a bribe, threat, or manipulation. On a barren moon orbiting Sigma Draconis, the wreckage of the Zyran fleet still floated. Recovery drones swarmed the area, collecting fragments. War historians would study this site for generations. One Zyran, disgraced and exiled, watched the recordings alone in exile. He watched the moment Alara's fleet decloaked. The moment his empire's dreadnought cracked. And he muttered the words every great empire eventually learns too late. We should have listened when they were quiet. Back on Earth, days later, Alara walked alone through the vast plains outside New Santiago. No uniform. No briefings. Just wind and dust and distance. Carr found her an hour later. They're asking for you again, he said. Conference of Sovereigns. New directives to approve. She kept walking. Tell them to draft without me. They'll do fine. Carr hesitated. And after? She turned at last, facing the wide, open sky. Then we watch, she said. And we wait. Not out of fear, but preparation. Someone will try to test us again. She looked upward, where the stars would soon appear. And when they do, they'll remember this chapter. Final lines. Alara sat on a rocky ridge as the first stars broke through the atmosphere. No fanfare. No applause. Just quiet certainty. For the first time, Earth had nothing to prove. Only something to protect.